debate has come up after it has been reported that more offenders are to be placed under house arrest and given electronic tags due to the 12,000 prisoner cell shortfall. Changes to sentencing will end short custodial terms to ensure that more criminals are punished in the community through house arrest and greater use of technology such as electronic tagging to restrict their movements. So is it okay for those who have been given a prison sentence to serve their time at home, or should prison mean prison? Carole, what do you think?
Absolutely. It's ludicrous because it isn't a prison sentence. They're going to be sitting at home on the sofa, watching daytime TV, probably watching you, Storm, sitting with a cup of tea and a bun in the morning. This is not a punishment. It's an insult to every victim of crime. You know, we saw it recently with loads of prisoners being let out. We were promised by Starmer's government that the people who committed serious crimes would not be let out, having served just a third of the sentence. They were. We found out that people who committed sexual crimes, people who committed violent crimes were let out on the streets. And here we have people who might not be sent to prison at all. And we're told they're going to be tagged and that they will be kept an eye on. How is that going to happen? We don't have enough cops to attend crimes now, proper crimes. So how are we going to have enough cops to go and monitor these people who have got tags on? It really is an insult. You know, we spend a lot of time in this country talking about criminals and the terrible lives they have in prison and how awful it is for them with overcrowding. We don't talk about the victims of crime. We don't talk about the people whose lives these people ruin. And these are the people who are going to be sitting at home on the sofa with a tag on their ankle, not being punished.
Is that, Ava, where we're going wrong here, or what we're missing? We're missing the victim.
Well, I mean, I think that's a fair argument, but I think it depends if you care about society at large and what's better for society. So if you've got someone who is a shoplifter, I don't think that it's helpful to put them in prison. I think it's incredibly expensive for the taxpayer to have them there, and I don't think that actually will rehabilitate them to stop them doing it the next time.
What do you think will?
Well, I mean, it depends circumstance to circumstance, doesn't it? But I would argue that I think that there's a lot of mental health in this country. There's a lot of mental illness.
Ava, you can't blame every crime on mental health issues.
But I wouldn't.
But you can't. You know, we have had
Carole, there are other reasons as well. There's addiction and that sort of thing. Just let Ava finish her point here.
Well, I would just say that I think that, you know, if you're looking at society at large and you want what's best for the people around you and you want to rehabilitate people and reingratiate them back into society, then this is a good way to do it.
You mentioned shoplifters. You know, they cost our economy billions a year. They're not getting any better with the rehabilitation they get. They're actually getting worse.
They're not getting any rehabilitation.
Yes, they are. They get community sentences rather than being sent to jail.
Do you know how overbloated our prisons are at the moment?
Yes, I do know how.
One of the largest prison
populations I know that.
in the
and
world.
That's because, so what we need to do is build many more prisons, because what's happening is there is no deterrent in this society now for any criminal. The people you mentioned, the shoplifters, we've had people on this show, retailers, saying the same people come in day after day just stealing because they know there are no consequences.
And that's a criminal,
and this is the
right?
problem.
And that's a criminal, and I get that. But, you know, what if someone is
Don't talk about
addicted?
stealing milk,
What
please.
if someone's got, you know, I said, what if someone's heavily addicted? What if someone's got children who they cannot feed?
Do you know what? The retailers we've had on the show and the retailers I've talked to on other shows, they're telling me that that's not the things that are mainly stolen. The things that are mainly stolen are expensive stuff like booze, like big legs of lamb, not the stuff that you need to keep
Shoplifting is
yourself alive.
definitely something that is the top of a lot of people's minds at the moment, and it's a serious issue in this country, but it isn't the only thing people go to prison for, and it won't be the only thing people would be on house arrest for. Duncan from Argyll and Bute, how do you feel about the potential for some prisoners to be on house arrest rather than being in prison? Do you think it makes us look soft on crime?
Yes, good morning, Storm, and good morning, Carole.
Morning.
How you doing?
Hi. Ava's here too.
Yeah, good morning.
I think it's a very, very cold morning today.
It certainly is. Do you have an opinion on prisons?
Yeah, well, I was just listening to what Carole was saying, and sorry, I forget your other colleague's name as well.
Ava.
Who?
Ava.
Oh, Ava.
There you go.
Right. Yes, I was just listening to it, and some of the views were absolutely proportionate and absolutely spot on about rehabilitation. And that was basically my main basis of the point I was going to make. Mm-hmm. Yes. Now, I was saying to your producer earlier that obviously the position with the most heinous of crimes, because, you know, I've been on before, you've probably heard me before when I've talked about personal safety and everything. The most heinous of crimes is murder, but to put in proportion, I think fraud is still a bad one, yes, and other ones as well, as I've probably covered before on your programme. But yes, if we can put proper measures in place, then yes, I think it's okay to let them come home. And if we're going to make rehabilitation more effective for the future in life, then I think it is worth it, and I think it should be given a chance to try it and see how it goes.
Okay, but what about the potential? I'm just thinking here, you have, let's say it's a woman, she's involved in organised crime, which are conducting shoplifting in their local town centre. She gets caught, she gets put on house arrest, but that doesn't stop her being able to organise shoplifting in her local area. And also when we get reoffending rates, so when we look at reoffending rates, a lot of that is put down to the fact that individuals after they leave prison are going back to the same circumstances, they're going back to the same families, they're going back to the same friends, they're going back to the same environment. Well, you're literally not taking the criminals out of their environment at any point, so when is that rehabilitation supposed to happen?
Well, I know it's very complicated, Storm, I know. And I do understand your point, and Carol, if you have any points on it, I think this is why I think there should be different types of rehabilitation program, where you can have a series of different training that applies to
different crimes.
Yes.
Okay.
And how,
Duncan,
as you say about organised crime. Sorry, I know it's a very complex subject.
No, it is, and actually, who knows what the right answer is? There seems to be pros and cons for every solution. Duncan, thank you for your call.
If we had a system where rehabilitation worked and was consistent, I would agree with that. But it isn't. We know that more than 50% of people who go into rehabilitation commit crimes within the year.
They're not going to rehabilitation. They're being thrown into a very old prison. And if you look at some of the prisons that we've got here in London, like Wandsworth or Brixton, they're falling apart. There is no way.
I'm talking about the community rehab. I'm talking about going into the community and supposed to be being rehabilitated. It doesn't work. We have prison ministers who've said in the past that it doesn't work. But the trouble now is that where is the deterrent for people not to commit crime when you know that you're only going to have to serve a third of your sentence, even for the most hideous.
But you get a criminal record which is life shattering.
So what is the answer to this? You're saying build more prisons, but the argument is we've got more people. We've got this overcrowding issue because people are in prison for longer now. We're giving people longer sentences.
Well, we're not. That's all in the past year. That's all been stopped. We know the judges have been directed to give much shorter sentences or not prison sentences at all. The bottom line is, I'd like to think that crime is going to get better if people are rehabilitated, but we know it's not. Crime is rocketing.
So what is
currently.
The answer?
It's not my place to solve the answer, but I think for the sake of innocent people, law-abiding people, you have to get the ones who are hurting you out of the way.
But then they come back onto the street, and then what happens?
Well, we'll get them off again if they hurt someone again.
You can't lock someone up and throw away the key.
There's a thing about right and wrong. People, it doesn't matter how thick you are, how violent you are, you know that hurting another human being, raping a woman, it's wrong.
But these people will not be put on house arrest. Those crimes will not be eligible for house arrest. We're talking about petty crimes.
You say that, but they said to us when they released that whole tranche of people recently that violent criminals wouldn't be released. They were. Yeah. So I don't trust this government to actually make that work.
We're getting lots of calls on this, so I just want to get back to them. Broderick from London, what do you think about prisoners serving their sentence at home? Is that a sentence at all?
Good morning, people.
Good morning.
I don't think so, because I live right next door, and I mean right next door to a prison, and I know people who work in there, which talk to me, and they said to me they're having the life of Riley in there to get TV, snooker.
Okay. What would you like it to look like, Broderick?
Well, I think they should earn the right to watch TV, earn the right to play pool, have some sort of system. I know it's very hard today. Prisons don't work. They don't work. But someone needs to come up with some sort of system where they have to earn rights to play pause or
And Broderick, I think there is a system already in place. I don't know, I think each prison probably operates slightly differently, and what their benefits, if you want to call it that, whether that's game stations, I don't even know what they're called, I never play them, or TV or pool tables, whether they are the benefits that you get, or there are other benefits that you can get in prisons. I think they are earned to a certain extent, but maybe not to the extent that you like. But other than that, what can we do to make prisons work? If prisons are our only response, what do we have to do to make them function?
Well, if you go back to the old ages where they used to really torture people, that never worked.
No.
As I'm saying, the system we got now isn't working.
No. Okay. But no answer.
A group of people need to get together
I think,
and come up with a system.
Broderick, I couldn't agree more, but I think many have tried and we don't seem to have come up with an appropriate response yet if we look at our reoffending rates.
Doesn't it make sense if there are no consequences to a crime that you commit? Well, then more people are going to commit them because why wouldn't they?
But house arrest would be a consequence. You would be in a curfew. It would be 7 till 7.
So just say someone who's battered a pensioner gets sent home on house arrest because battering elderly people doesn't seem to be considered a great crime these days. So just say they get sent home on house arrest. How is that pensioner going to feel? How is that pensioner's family going to feel? Because what the justice system is basically saying to these victims of crime is, you don't matter.
Well, hang on.
Don't matter.
We genuinely do have a problem with prison places, and actually a lot of the sentencing is either being delayed or there are shorter sentences being handed out because you simply cannot accommodate a prison spot for these people. So, like, if you look around, like, you know, the UK at the moment, one of the biggest problems that we've got is bike theft and mobile phone theft, right? I mean, how many people do you know personally who's had their mobile phone snatched?
They don't get sent to jail for
Lots
that.
of them. No, they don't.
Get a
I know they don't. I know they don't get a prison sentence for that. But I'm arguing that, you know, if you had this house arrest available, perhaps then a judge would be able to actually deliver sentences.
But a judge is never going to send anyone to prison who's committed that. You have to commit the crimes you commit have to be pretty serious for it to get sent to prison in the first place.
What Ava is saying is that they should have some sort of punishment, and actually, if home arrest was there, that might be a punishment.
Is it a punishment? Home arrest would only work if you had people to monitor it, and I don't believe there are the cops available to monitor that kind of
system. That could be a difficulty. Leslie from Flintshire, what's your view on this?
Hiya, how are you?
Fran, thank you. What's your thoughts on prisons and how do we free up some spaces?
Oh, can I just say I absolutely adore Carol. I think everything she's saying is absolutely brilliant. And I was on last week when we talked about my son doing the...
You're the lady who chucked him out because he was... because he wasn't going to work.
Yeah, he's just bleeding the system dry. He's getting £1,600 a month.
That's tough parenting there, Leslie.
So I
all right,
love it. But the reason I'm phoning up is I think that if it's a minor crime and they're going to put you into the, put things on your legs so they can keep an eye on you, why can't they do community service? Get the graffiti off the wall.
Well,
get them cleaning up the roads.
Leslie,
doing something.
Leslie, it very well could be part of it, and that's definitely, I think, something that the Labour is looking at. You've got community punishments, and I'm sure that would be part of it. The argument against that is, well, there's a shame element, a humiliation element, which doesn't work very well with rehabilitation, but put that aside, just the cost for security for those sorts of things is incredibly high and may not make this system as cheap as they hoped. But presumably it's cheaper than sending someone to prison.
We have to invest in this, you know. We keep on saying, what's the solution? So we have to invest. And Leslie's spot on, right. Why are we letting people sit on the sofa watching telly all day? Because that is not a punishment for whatever it is they've done. Why aren't they cleaning the roads? Why aren't they wiping
I'm not actually sure whether that
the roads, can
Why
you?
not?
Because you can't. What if someone's committed a violent crime? You then can't put them out into the public and, you know, allow them to clean the roads.
Well, you were just saying before, you're talking about people committing petty crimes. Now you've moved on to violent crime. The people who've committed the petty crimes who have been told to sit at home, why don't they serve the community in some way? Go and work in a homeless shelter.
You don't like community sentences.
I didn't say that.
I'm actually wondering whether the individuals that will be on house arrest will be allowed to go and work, because otherwise my question is who's paying for their rent, who's paying for their gas and electricity, and if the government and the taxpayer are paying for it, then it's looking a lot more expensive than keeping them in prison. I may be completely wrong on that.
I think it sounds
I
right.
wonder whether actually they'll take the opportunity to allow the individual to continue working if their employer would allow it, and whether they would be able to do that. That would be part of their conditions to go and do a shift. But Leslie, thank you very much for your call. Mavis from Leeds, what's your view when it comes to giving people house arrest instead of a prison sentence?
Well, I think that they don't do the crime if you can't serve the time. And they should be punished for doing any kind of criminal act. You know, it's not right. What kind of a society are we creating here where they can do a criminal thing, steal something and get away with it? That's not what we want in our society.
I think many people would agree with you, and I think Ava to a certain extent would agree with you. I think the issue is there's no spaces in our prisons, so what do we do?
Is it beyond the wit of this government to put up makeshift buildings? Is it beyond the wit of them to put up something?
It would appear so.
Really
prison blocks.
Buildings.
Yes, you can. You can put up. They've done it already. They've got them all over the country. They're like little pods in sections of the towns, and they put them there, and they're secure in those.
Would you want someone who's committed a violent, sexual assault to be put into a pod?
Ava, they're not on housing estates. They're away, and they're in these what do you call them, like jerry-built buildings. We've got them already. We had them last year. Sorry,
like a porta cabin.
Yes, exactly like that, and they're secure. And
I mean, people break out of actual prisons with walls. I'm sure they would be able to get out of a porta cabin. That's
apparently not. Yeah. Apparently not.
But maybe what would you say is the solution then? If we've got no more space in the prisons that we have, we don't seem to be able to build prisons for some reason or extra cells. What is the answer?
Long-term sentences. Well, reduce sentences. Get them out and get some of these new criminals in, because they need to be taught a lesson. We're not going to put up with it anymore. And if those poor people that have been in prison for years and years, if they're okay to let them out a little bit earlier.
Well, that is sort of part of Labour's policy and what Labour are doing, but that too is quite controversial, Mavis. Thank you very much for your call, though. Still to come,